Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East-West Show. Jack Chow with the East-West Show, famous for many years with glory. And this time, once again, as you can see by the setting, we're ready for a debate. Sometimes debate makes the point clear. It's a smart way to do. Sometimes you're not clear with things. Well, debate probably will help. Today, on my left-hand side is a glorious man who served the United States in the U.S. Navy for 25 glorious years, Commander Joe Shamas. Please. You're welcome.
Great to be with you,
show.
Jack. Thank you for inviting me, and it's always wonderful to be here. So thank you, audience, for tuning in and listening.
Okay, Mr. Joe Shamas, or Commander Joe Shamas, is double feature now. He is the candidate for Congress of 29th District. If I may use a quote from him, is that I've seen repeatedly failure of leadership, congressional leadership, so I decided to run myself so that I could be one of the 435th. Right?
435.
435. So, to my right-hand side is my good friend. You know him probably even better than I do, Mr. Ken Hemming, my brother kind of friend for a lifetime long, that I trust him so much that I sometimes have to bring my crying baby to him for an answer. So Mr. Ken Hemming of Pasadena, welcome to the show.
As you know, I love being with you, your viewers even more, and with a veteran even more.
All right, very good, very good. And we know that all three of us are very constitutional. We devote our Constitution. We are ready to serve the people. So on the common ground, let's today talk about our situation, our involvement, and the world situation in Syria, please. If I may please, I may raise a general question to both of you to give us a general picture of what's happening in Syria, please. And I want Ken go first, please.
If you want me to, sure. I got up early this morning and was watching BBC for about an hour, where they were sharing that the French say they believe they have proof that it was a chemical action in Duma, and hopefully that's validated as the truth. Theresa May of England was given the authority by her cabinet to participate with France in America in a response to this tragedy of human life. Chemical attacks reminds me of World War I, when people just got gassed all the time. It was horrible. And then President Trump has been meeting, with John Bolton and all of his other security people to try to, number one, validate that this did happen. Two, what I found interesting this morning is that they were saying that it's relatively, they don't believe that Syria could have done it themselves with their own technology, that it required participation, active participation with Russia, in that Putin has been involved in chemical warfare activities. I'm not saying using it, but developing it for like 20 years. So, I think the light is starting to shine that it was a bad actor in a very tragic. You see kids suffering, and it really disallows all international standards of propriety in warfare. Okay. So we'll see what happens. I know what I think, and we'll see what Joe thinks.
All right. So to my left-hand side is my candidate for Congress 29th District. Oh, by the way, he looks to me the most hopeful. Oh, by the way, also, the coming Wednesday on the 13th, if you have time, come my way. I have a seminar for you, specially featured for Mr. Joe Shamas to make his point clear. So 11:30 in EDI office at the Cultural Center. So be my guest. Okay,
wonderful.
Now,
we invite everybody to come.
All right, very good.
I want to thank Ken and Jack for being here today. I think it's a very important topic. And today I heard something that I haven't heard for a long time, and that is we're going to investigate before we take action. Because what we have not been doing is exactly that. We've been jumping to conclusions, and that's one of the things that really bothers me about how our government has been behaving. We jump to conclusions, we draw the decisions made, and then we go back and saying, let's put a plan together to support and move forward on that decision. The reality is this: children suffer through war every stage. As we witnessed in World War II, gases, a lot of the Jews were put in gas chambers and suffocated. It was a horrible way to die. But to me, every death is horrible. Every death that's unnecessary is horrible. So I beg the question, and that is, why are we there in the first place in Syria? This whole situation, as I looked at it, and perhaps I can give you a little bit about my background, I taught NBC warfare while I was in the Navy. Actually, I taught at Harvard, NBC warfare classes. So as I look at the video from a very limited observations, the few videos that we see, it's not a chemical weapon because there's no burns there. And the people that are washing the kids, they got a hose and the water just flowing. There's no protection for the people that are doing it or that. Besides that, if it was an actual one, now we should follow the steps that Ken mentioned earlier, and that is we should investigate. And more importantly, we should find out who actually did it and actually go and punish the people that did that so they don't repeat it. I am with Ken. I don't believe President Assad did that. Not that he had or does not have the technology, but he, as a physician, like myself, cares about people. That's why he went into medicine. So I'm not here to support or defend. I'm just saying, as a physician, that our first and primary duty is to preserve life and to minimize suffering. So as a physician, he believes that. And as a physician, he wouldn't do those kinds of things. However, in war situations, people do what's necessary to get the job done. That said, I think one of the first things that I got concerned a few weeks ago when President Trump announced that he is appointing John Bolton, the unconfirmed by the Senate, the appointed at a recess by President Bush to be the Secretary of the United States Secretary at the United Nations. It tells you that this gentleman is clearly one of the warmongers and one of the war hawks who was one of the originals that started and got us into this whole mess in the Middle East in the first place. Him and some of his cohorts, I call it cohorts in crime, because that's what was committed in Iraq, in Libya, and now what we're doing the same thing in Syria. So when John Bolton came on the cabinet, and it's amazing how a few days later, this whole thing transpired. Right after President Trump said, we want to leave. I believe our brave men and women in the military should not be there. We have no business there. We should come home, bring him home.
Okay, all right, very good. So Ken, do you agree to his statement?
I'm a very strong fan of John Bolton. I think he's a very bright fellow. I think he's a man that recognizes reality. And if we keep talking and doing nothing like we did in the Obama administration, we'll just keep diminishing in our respect the world has for us.
As for John Bolton, I was almost to cut him short because that was another issue, right?
Okay.
And then we just delay a little bit. We will talk about him when we come back, right? But right now we're talking about the first part of the comment, though. Number one, what is happening in Syria, right? Number two, was it chemical weapons or not, right? Number three, who did it?
Right.
Number four, who is capable or was capable of doing it? I'll give you an example. Do not laugh at me. In the elevator, somebody made some gas, right? Smells bad. Okay, that is the phenomenon that's confirmed. Somebody must have done it to make it smell so bad, right? And then the second question, they look around, who did it? That's the question. Now, we're talking about two questions. Number one, we want to find out, has anybody produced some gas there? And number two, was the gas devastating? And number three, who did it?
Well, there's 42 dead. So I think it was pretty devastating. 42 dead. And they have urine and blood samples from victims, whoever they are, that do supposedly show that there were
Who are they?
gases in there.
In a third-party lab?
No,
No,
France,
this is the
England.
information that came from the same source that brings us these stories over and over. There has been no international entity that went there to independently verify. This is the same people that want to keep us in the Middle East in constant conflict. Anytime we have opportunity for peace, the first thing they want to do is throw diplomacy out the window and keep the military engaged.
Yeah, that's
we
clear.
need to readdress that. This is a
Good.
diplomatic issue
Yeah.
and should be handled
You made
diplomatically.
your point clear already. But to Ken, do you or do you not agree that it needs a third party or fourth party, in other words, independent party, to do the lab test to let us know? For example, we're all in the elevator, we don't need anybody. Our noses tell us, right? If for people outside the elevator, we want to have a third party to come in to get the samples, to test it. So this is it.
I believe
Like
France, England, and the United States are sufficient independent parties. I don't think anybody's looking. Joe disagrees, but I am very comfortable with what the three countries will come up with, and I will support that. And there are just things where you do. Remember when we shot 59 missiles over there, in which, there's only peace through strength. There's not peace through submission.
What we want to do is that we want to step by step make our ways to it to see what's exactly in there. So for the first segment, we want to confirm that you and I and him, we all together have at a point, have arrived at one point that we are not sure if that was a chemical gas.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, chemical weapon in the form of gas.
Some people,
what we
we're
do
not
know
sure.
right now is it's unconfirmed, and there's a confirmation
It's
process going
unconfirmed,
on.
and we will know.
When that results comes out, then we have more information. I think that's the only way we,
very
as
good.
a civilized country, should be behaving is through information and through
right.
a
Sure.
process.
My lovely audiences, today I have the pleasure to do this very high-class debate with my dear brother Ken Hemming of Pasadena. By the way, he is the member of the PCC Foundation, right? And on my left-hand side, a candidate for Congress. So someday he will be one of the 435. So
Thank you.
his 435th will probably really make a difference. Let's take a short moment now. We come back, we'll continue from that point on. We'll move forward to see what exactly, who has done it. All right, stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow with the East-West Show. Today we're doing a debate. To my left-hand side of the debate is my good friend, the commander of U.S. Navy, retired. He's now candidate for Congress for the 29th District. Sir, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
And to my right-hand side, my other friend, Mr. Ken Hemming, a wonderful writer. His book, you should read his book, Life is Simple, 100 Words to Live By, is my Bible next to my pillow, or between my wife and my pillow. How about that, right?
Okay.
So
Better keep
that's
her
my
in
Bible.
there.
All right, anyway.
Better keep her in there.
So, okay, today we are debating the fact that number one, what is happening in Syria, and number two, who did what is happening in Syria, number three, what should we do? When we say we say United States as a whole, especially on learning lessons of what we had done of 2003 over Iraq situation, the quote-unquote, the massive destruction weapons. We really want to get smarter. So now, since you ended the last, now you started first. So do you think in your knowledge or the sources of your information, who might have done it?
Well,
Who might be the one who did it?
Well, I'm very interested that Joe speaks highly of Assad. I haven't heard anybody else ever speak highly of him. And I'm really curious how you say that, and you give him so much credit for being a physician. And of course, Dr. Mengele was a physician too. So it doesn't automatically give you purity of your heart. So I'm really interested how you have the comfort of feeling good about
happy
him.
to answer
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
I think it's one of the things that we have done very good job in the West. When I'm saying we, our country actually is the leader at how they want to characterize a bad guy. We need a bad guy in the world so that our military will constantly go after that. Barbara Walters met with President Assad. They did a 2020, they did a 60 Minutes with him, and they thought he was a genuine human being. And it's amazing. 2 years later, we decided through our CIA and our friends, we call them friends, but actually they're horrible people that we only do is sell them weapons, the Saudis, the Qataris, and a lot of the Western Europe. We decided we want to overthrow Assad, and through our CIA, we funded the overthrow of the legitimate government of Syria. Do I know him? I don't know him personally, but I can tell you as a physician, that's the first thing we do. There's always an exception to every rule, and you know that, and I know that. But I think what has happened here is we have failed, and I want to repeat this, and I want to say it very loudly. We have failed as a country to pursue diplomatic processes. Our first and only option nowadays, because of the people that have been in control in Washington, is military action first. Take a big stick, beat them up until they submit. This is something that must change. All these people that vote for war after war have not personally served in war, and they have not seen the horrors of war. What they have done is send your children, my children, into harm's way and into conflict. So I want to go back and saying, what is America about? Look at the land of liberty and land of peace and land of love and justice that we have. We're not exercising true justice. We're not exercising diplomacy. What we're exercising is my way or the highway. If you don't do what I want, we're going to beat you up. And that is something that we must hold every politician that votes that way. We should vote them out to get a real job and work for a living instead of sucking the money out of the taxpayers and hard-working people that you and I know. So my suggestion to you is this. Vote them out. Vote in people with common sense. America is strong, and it must remain strong. America is the proudest nation, and we must reverse to that pride and relate it to what America is about.
All right.
Land of justice.
Okay, good. Thank you for the statement.
Thank you.
And you respond to his statement, please?
Well, I disagree with certain portions of it. I agree with his heart. I'd like to remind Joe that President Trump has been exceptionally active in diplomacy. He had 55 Muslim leaders in the Far East, Middle East, at a tremendous reception that he had.
That was a year ago.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
And he also went to NATO, and he's been out there among them. We just even Qatar, of course, I think it's got some big problems, but they just had the Emir of Qatar at the White House a day or two ago. Yeah. So I do not think that the Trump administration is one that wants to just recklessly become violent. And also in the last Obama administration, they did absolutely nothing of positive diplomacy.
That's exactly my concern. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen, for being that sober-minded, for being that cool to the root point. The root point is that this country, we have been hurt one time so dearly to the bone. We want to remember that we never jump on a conclusion to make a wrong move. So do you agree with me this time? Like the Iraq situation.
Yeah, not completely.
We always have to come back to revise it. Oh, no. It was not for massive destruction weapons. It was for our promotion of democracy. And they say, no, we don't want your democracy. And then as our promotion for election or so on and so forth, it goes on and on and on. Yeah. Not only do we have a big war to fight, we have a big job to do to revise it on and on and on. Yeah. It is such a negative position. So do you agree with me on my statement?
Well, look, go back to World War II, Jack. We are not an imperialistic nation trying to set up other governments. We defeated Germany, we defeated Japan that were heinous beyond comprehension, and we rebuilt them in two of our great world powers right now. They have great difficulties right now because of their own mistakes. But I don't fully agree. But I mean, I believe the heart of America is the greatest that planet Earth has to offer.
Okay, you don't agree, but you agree with it?
Well, I agree quite consistently with what you said, but I want to go back to a couple of points that Ken made, and are very valid points. Yes, President Trump did go and extend a hand out to so many Muslim countries. But I want to remind you, what did he really do? He sold billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of weapons. So Saudi Arabia, what are they doing now? Battering the Houthis in Yemen, their border. So we did not extend diplomacy. We extended warmongering. So I want to correct that. But let me go back to what we're talking about. And Ken mentioned this in World War II, that it was actually the entire world was involved in this. And we, along with, and I want to remind everybody of this, and people don't talk about it, but it's very important for us to know. Russia was our ally in World War II. Russia defeated the Germans just alongside us. Russia today is the only country out of the allied forces that we had working together that defeated Germany, Turkey, and Italy, and Japan. Russia is the only one we exclude out of the world community. Instead of, and as we looked at Japan, Germany, and Italy, and Turkey, they're our friends. Why did we select those people as friends and excluded them? I don't know. But I do know one thing. We as human beings have to remember we live on one planet, and as a military person, I believe there's an applicable time to use military force, and military necessity and power base is critical. But on the other hand, I believe more importantly in diplomacy, because any problem can be solved if you sit down and talk to resolve it. But we haven't been using that approach, Jack.
Okay.
What we have been using,
You want
you
to
don't
leave,
do it my
you want
way,
to leave
I'll
some
shoot
time
you.
for Ken to respond to it?
Yeah. I don't
Do
think,
you
I just
agree?
can't agree if you don't do it our way, we shoot you. I just can't
that's
agree
what
with
we
that.
do now.
And I never will agree with that.
Go ahead.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
and I believe Putin has isolated himself from the world community, not us isolating them. And I mean, he's evil, pretty evil to the core, I think. And not everything can be accomplished through diplomacy. However, so far through diplomacy and also carrying a big stick of concept, we may have some deferral or solution to the North Korea deal. If President Trump accomplishes that, that's unbelievable. And that's through diplomacy. We are ready to do something, take action if necessary, because we cannot allow them to have a delivery system to atomic bombs to land in your district. And I'm willing to do anything and support anything that does not let that happen. And then it's going to go to Iran. Iran's going to be doing the same thing. What we did, the Iran deal, in my opinion, aiding and abetting the enemy, was an act of treason. And you might think it was great, which is fine. I accept that.
No. I just want to ask you, why do we consider Iran an enemy? I don't understand. They've never attacked anybody. They've never done. We have done more to damage Iran than any country on earth. We overthrew the legitimate government in the 50s. We installed the Shah, and then they revolted. They want their country back. I mean, you know that, Ken. We did that.
Look what they got back. They got
But the point is, we did it. You're saying we don't do that. We do that. We have 1,000+ military bases around the world. What other country has that? Do we have 1,000 missions of goodwill around the world? A business centers?
Hundreds of thousands. That's not true.
No,
Hundreds
not
of thousands, if not millions. There's
We do
no
not.
greater country in sharing charity, in trying to rebuild the homeless or the
After we
hopeless.
bombed the hell out of them, we want to rebuild them.
Wow. Well, I
No, tell me, what was in Iraq? What was our purpose going to Iraq? And we haven't learned from that. We're doing the same thing in Syria.
Well, the worst thing we ever did was Hillary gets Lebanon, okay? With,
Oh, okay,
you know,
guys.
get him
But
killed.
why we
Look
went
what
to
happened.
Iraq? What was
guys.
the
But-
purpose?
but-
They lied to
okay,
us,
guys,
and
okay.
they lied, and we haven't
But
responded.
Iran they force thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there yelling death to Americans after we send them $1,800,000,000.
That was
How
their
can you-
money.
How can you?
No,
wasn't-
what does that have to do with
wasn't
it?
their
You
money?
Okay,
know,
guys.
we do a
All right,
lot
okay.
of publicity
Okay.
on TV. You know that.
They
I know
want
that.
every Israeli
Time
dead.
is up for
That's
this
not our
segment.
business.
Yes, it is.
My
No,
dear
it is
audience,
It's my business, okay?
today
It's my business.
we're doing a debate, and as you can see, we're getting into it.
The vodka's very good today.
Yeah, so, well, okay, cheers, all right?
There we go,
So
cheers.
let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue. All right, so, of course, I have my point to make, so stay with us. Hello, dear folks, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Today, in a debate about what is happening in Syria, what are we doing in Syria as a subject, we are collecting those most elite people. On my right-hand side is my good friend Ken Hemming, a wonderful writer and wonderful philosopher, and someone, quote-unquote, constitutional. Someone never gets offended, someone
Impossible,
whose
yeah.
day is one after the other, another, one better and better, right? Something like that.
Life is a dream.
Okay. On my left-hand side, my dear friend, Commander Joe Shamas, was from a former Navy commander, U.S. Navy, served for 25 glorious years. That I salute a lot. And now he is, instead of retiring, staying home, enjoy life, he decided to walk out, for reason being that he has seen enough failures of our congressional leadership so that he will do his part to make this country better. So we all wanted to vote for him to make that happen, to see if we deserve any betterment. So to both of you, once again, welcome back.
Thank you.
The reason I said this long lead line is to cool you down. It's just to cool you down. However, as a mediator, as a coordinator, I normally have no take. I just arrange the order like that, right? But in this case, I do have one. I want to point clear to both of you, is neither Donald Trump nor Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton who did what. It is together we, as the United States, what did we do, right? So based on that, we may come back to the Iraq, Iranian, and the Syrian issues.
Sure.
To me, the way I look at it is that the public eye is always kept busy on something. It was about a month ago, we were talking about North Korea. There is attack. When attack came to a détente, I call it, and then our eyes are dragged over for a year-old issue of the Assad regime, and now we're about to attack. Tuesday, when I called those gentlemen to schedule this show, though, people say, and the word has it, the news has it, everybody has it, says during 48 to 72 hours, something big might happen. Now we're talking about 106 hours, nothing's still not happening. There must be something. So your comment about why nothing happening, please.
Well, I want to commend President Trump because I think his initial reaction was emotional, and as any sane human being, as any person with heart, when they hear chemical attack, we all get frustrated, we all get nervous, we all want to do something because as human beings we care. And he, as a human being, cares, and his response was immediate. But now I think cooler heads have prevailed, and that is, let's study this. As Ken said, let's find out what really happened, let's find out who did it, and let's hold these people accountable. That's how we proceed as Americans. America is built on justice. We threw the Europeans out, we threw British out because of not proper representation, taxation without representation, and so on. So here we are as an individual. When somebody accuses you of a crime, you have the right to a trial. We should hold the same principles, and I believe we are starting to do that, and that is find out what happened, make decisions based on that information, because only through information can we really come to the proper conclusion. And Jack and Ken, I want to let you know, as an expert in NBC warfare, I'll be happy to go there and personally verify along with any team that goes there. So my services are available. If somebody wants to fund it, I'll be happy to go. And I will come up with that to be able to provide you independent. As a military officer, I'm sworn to defend and support our Constitution. That's my first priority. It's not their party, either Republican or Democrat, independent. My oath is the United States Constitution. So my oath is never under question. And my sincerity of service to the country is reflected through my 25 years in the Navy, going from an E1 to commander. And that doesn't happen often. Ken knows that.
Yeah,
you know,
it
you
doesn't
don't go
happen
from
often.
E1 to commander.
All right,
just because,
I love it. I love that.
I
love
offer
that.
my services.
I love that
From
offer
E1
as
to
a fact.
E4.
So, I noticed that his comment, the first part of his comment, being lots of appraisal to Donald Trump, that as a human being, he kind of like, in the first place, acted as a human being, which is all right, and later he cools down, and now that is the answer to my question, why there's no action so far.
Well,
so you respond to my question, why there's no action so far.
First, let me display my ignorance. Could you tell the viewers what NBC is?
Nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Why there's no action? Well, France is coordinating its own accumulation of data for validation or concluding differently. Britain's doing the same right now. Theresa May, the cabinet has given her the authority to work with America and France, and I believe President Trump is doing the same. And obviously the three countries will do something coordinated together, whatever it is, whether it's physical or diplomatic or whatever, I don't know. But they're certainly working on a daily basis while other people over there still suffering from whatever that got in their bodies that killed them. There's no bullet holes in those people over there.
No.
They died from something else. And when it's mass death, it's a mass problem, okay? So why, well, number one, it's also part of President Trump's, I think, very intelligent concept that you never let your enemy or whatever know what you're going to do.
As a conclusion,
so
you do agree with the fact that it is now the cooling down period. During the cooling down period, not only us, but France, but UK are also doing the second consideration to be backed with lots of findings through researches. Is this what you're saying that we're doing
Well,
now?
what I'm saying, it may be
Delays
heating
action?
up, not cooling down.
Okay.
It may be heating
Could
up,
be.
having,
Could be.
you need coal for
the
the
more
fire.
findings,
Right, the more findings.
such as Commander Joe offered, say,
Yeah.
I'll walk in and do it myself.
And President Trump did say that if there is action taken, that the Congress will know it before it's taken, and Putin will know it too, but not Syria. It'll be very short. Now, also we have to give credit to China for helping on this North Korea situation, obviously.
Yeah, China did the part. There's another issue we're talking about the public eye always being being
Actually, I want to elaborate on a point that Ken made. I think that's something that needs to be, everybody needs to hear that. His words were, and that's exactly what's happening, the president will notify the Congress of his action. In fact, that is illegal under the Constitution. The Congress, and Congress alone, has the power to declare war and take action. So this president's action, if it were only to notify, is illegal. And as a congressman, when I'm elected, I will challenge any president that usurps the authority of the Constitution. I don't care what party they're from. If the Constitution gives the power to the Congress to declare war, that's who declares war. We are right now in Syria without declaration of war, without the consent of the United States Congress as the Constitution demands. So as a concerned citizen, there's very little I can do other than contact our elected leaders. But as a congressman, I will sue and have the Supreme Court decide that the Constitution is the ultimate authority that controls what branches of the government do and do not do under the auspices of the Constitution, which we've all sworn to uphold.
A military action to protect the country for valid reasons is not a declaration of war.
Yes, you're right. To defend the country. We're not defending our country. We're involved militarily overseas in a different country that has no security impact on the United States
One
whatsoever.
thing for sure.
When Russia's involved, there's a security impact on the United States.
The United States is not under threat whatsoever from Syria or any other country. Of course, there are some behind-the-scene issues that always we have to be aware of to keep the threat down.
My lovely audiences, at each of the ending of the segment, though, we seem to make a point. The point being that who has the right to declare wars? The Congress or the President, right? Now, the President excuses that at any moment in defense of this nation, our land, I have the right, of course you have the right by Constitution to declare war when your land is invaded. Now our land is not invaded, it's somebody else's land. And then it is subject to the Congress to decide, we, United States, are we going into war or not? That is a point clear resolution. So we take a break. We will come back right away to get to the point. Assad, United States, or Israel, or Russians, who may have the power or capability of doing it. So stay with us. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Americans, welcome back. Please be welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about a very serious issue. As a matter of fact, it's not a talk, it's a debate. A very friendly debate, very intelligent, high-level debate of the high profile, of course. And it's happening between my good friend, Commander Joe Shamas of former U.S. Navy. What unit?
Commander.
A submarine. You were a submarine, right?
Yes.
And he is now a candidate for Congress.
Pretty serious.
Reason being that using the accumulation, the experiences accumulated over the 25 years as a commander, I know what's wrong with this country. It's a failure of leadership. If you put the right leadership there, at least one district will get better, if not more. Okay, now, to my right-hand side is my good friend, Ken Hamming. He has no military service record, but his concept is more militant than anybody. And more than me, more than anybody. He's ready to fight, and he's a fighter, as a matter of fact, fighter for justice in my eye.
Well, let me just say, though, I was in the National Guard 6 years, so I did.
Were?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've still got my helmet. I've got my attention tool. I
All
do.
right, good for you.
Yes.
You're better now. Okay, now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
It will all discussed. Well, both gentlemen agreed that we are doing much better if we cool down ourselves to think about our decision and to let our resolution be backed up by findings, especially chemical findings, scientific findings, that both them agreed that I feel I'm much better, rather than many years ago talking about Iraq war. We jumped on it and the next thing we know, the statue is dragged down, and next thing we know, and Saddam Hussein is hanged. Well, in a hurry.
Yeah.
In a hurry, all right?
I'm not in a hurry, but
In a hurry.
May I make one comment, though?
Yeah.
You're saying we're trying to get information that's valid and all that, but in America right now, there's more disinformation than information because there's such division, and so I don't know what to believe anymore.
That's exactly.
Period.
That's exactly what
There's
we're talking
one thing
about.
I want to say. I wholeheartedly agree with Ken, and there's so much disinformation out there that it's very difficult to to know where do we really get the news
That's
from. how do we hear
exactly
that. So
what we're
100%
talking
on
about.
That one. Yes.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Okay, now, in those area, in the Syria area, there are parties like the government. When they say government, they say the Assad government, right? And there might be the rebels, right? There might be the Russian forces. There might be Israel.
White helmets.
Well, mercenaries funded and provided from all over Europe and Saudis
And
from
and
Afghanistan
the
and
United
Pakistan.
States.
Yes.
The mercenaries is a big deal
Yes, it
because
is.
it's illegal to be a mercenary in Russia, but yet there's a huge company
All
that
these-
is
all
deemed not to
these-
exist.
You're talking about
All the-
Blackwater.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure, but the name of it was a
Sorry,
different
but
name.
that is true.
Yeah.
Well, we do have so many
all
different
these
actors
parties,
in there,
all
yes.
these parties could have the opportunity, could have done it,
Yes.
right? But who does it?
We don't know.
Now we're talking about misinformation.
We will
right? Misinformation, lots of more misinformation. Now the mainstream news trying to lead us into certain belief that it is Assad and his government who did it.
Well,
Right?
I don't think anybody's trying to make up a story to lead someone to that conclusion.
What if it was the Russians who did it?
Well, like I said, they were talking about that collusion with Russia.
What if the
participation to
Israelis do it?
Technically.
What we do know
I don't
is
think the Israelis. That's
people
not
died.
conceivable.
What we do know is people died, and suffering must stop. And we must take every action to stop the suffering from continuing and from promoting further suffering. So as we do that, we have to look back and say, what can we do diplomatically to ease the tension? Syria is an independent country. Syria is it's one of the only remaining country that works hand in hand with the Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and a lot of Jews still are in Syria. They work closely all together. It was the only secular remaining country in the Middle East. The only secular remaining country in the Middle East. And now we are doing something to change that, to turn it into a radicalized country controlled by fanatic Muslims who chop heads and kill people. And this is something that we as Americans have to start thinking about. Why is our government involved in these military adventures overseas to overthrow legitimate governments? We as American citizens, we know better. We are better than that. Ken's heart's in the right place. My heart's in the right place. Jack's heart's in the right place. We approach things differently, but our heart's in the right place. And as Americans, we have to start holding our leaders accountable to stop these things from happening. We must refocus our energy and our money back on the mainland here. And we must start diplomatic processes around the world and not the big stick process.
I've learned that each of the Tomahawk missile costs $2.5 million.
Oh, you mean money-wise?
Your money-wise, right? $2.5 million. 40 of them would make $100 million. If we use, like, say, 120 of those Tomahawk, it's going to be exactly the same population like ours, more than 300 million.
I
Jack,
believe, if I may say,
$1 each.
We've spent since the Iraq War, I believe the current estimate is $1.7 trillion on the war in the Middle East.
Exactly.
$1.7 trillion in the Middle East on war.
There
now,
are
let me
many-
ask you this: what could we have done with that money to help our own country?
Yeah.
Well, let me just say one thing.
Go ahead.
There's more waste in our government spending than
We
there
agree
is
again.
that there is in our military thing. And I also want to thank Joe for wearing his Trump tie like I did today. So
There we go.
we have a unified vision.
Has Trump monopolized
Well
the
said,
red?
Ken.
Has Trump monopolized the red? No, it's not a Trump color. Anyway, all right.
Anyway,
Thank you for loving Trump,
But
but
it's good to throw in a punch
yeah,
once
sure.
in a while.
Yeah, you
we
gotta.
take that.
A nice
Well,
one, yeah.
Okay, what
Fashion
I
punch.
can agree with you is that if you discover there are other aspects, other areas the government squandering money or wasting money, you may say, okay, when you make them waste money, I waste money too.
No, I'm
No,
not saying
let's
that.
not do that.
But freedom
when
is
there
not
is
free.
when there is no.
Freedom is
You-
not free.
Who are you for freeing?
Pardon?
I mean, Freedom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are you freeing? If you launch Syria, who are you freeing?
I don't know what that word is.
I mean,
He's
freeing.
saying when you're
Who are
talking
you
freedom is not
liberating?
free. We're in Syria. Why are we there? What does that have to do with freedom for us?
Well,
That's his
obviously
question.
Has
Syria
anything to do
is
with our
an
freedom?
amigo with Russia. Russia is a serious threat
And
to
then,
America.
you know what do we do? Tackle Russia. Moscow, boom, 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 boom. 500 of them, that's it.
Let me ask you this, Ken, if
Yeah,
I may.
yeah.
Why is Russia as our enemy? Let me ask you that. Why?
Because-
we
okay.
planted them as an enemy.
I-
But
I-
they're
no,
really
By
not.
the way, let me tell you, you go back to Russia, World War II, 20 million Russians died.
And that was
is
to
a movie.
defeat the Germans.
Right, right. No,
So why
they
have
ga-
we
they-
not, since that time,
Well,
reached
because-
out to work together as a global energy entity to promote peace around the
You'd
world?
have to talk to the Russian leaders after World War
talking to
II.
you,
But who?
Yeah,
Who?
right
Who?
me, right
Who?
now.
Who's the- who?
Putin wants
Who is
to
the- who would be
recreate the
talking?
Russian Empire that we did
Okay,
take down
but-
under Ronald Reagan.
Okay, let me
and
ask
that's
you
what he's
this.
trying to
this
do.
Is actually, you brought an excellent point. We dismantled the Warsaw Pact, correct? Why do we still have NATO? NATO was built to dissuade the Warsaw Pact from any conflict. Russia said, okay, we're all done. But we didn't. What we have done is, in fact, increase NATO membership. We have increased military posts right on the border of Russia. We have done everything to antagonize them, and I'll have to tell you, they're pretty cool. They haven't really responded in a way I would have responded if my personal freedom and my personal space was invaded. We have done that. And you
I
can't
don't
say,
think you
no, we
would've.
didn't do that, Ken.
Yeah, well-
Didn't we expand NATO?
Well,
yes, we did.
We've let in some.
Was Warsaw
We've let in
separated?
some foolish countries in NATO. This
Thank
one
you.
country's this
We
teeny
shouldn't have
little
NATO
one.
at all.
and then-
Why are we
well,
in NATO? Why is the United States
Let's
in
focus.
NATO?
Well, you
Let's
might agree
focus
that
on
I would like to
Syria.
get the United Nations
Let's
out
focus
of
on
America.
Syria. Let's focus on Syria.
Get
There we
the
go.
In
You
UN
went
out
Syria,
of here.
though,
Thank you. We
when
agree
we
together.
discovered the mess there, and then we're so sure it's Russian who did it, why don't we attack Russia?
Well, look how Trump's reaching out to China. You know, we want to be friends, but we want to be able to do trade in a fair way. I mean, we do want to. I think I think China and America have a very good relationship. I think
I'm not asking about that direction. I'm asking why don't you launch Russia? Launch an attack to Russia.
Because the world would end. That's what would happen.
Well, we've each got several
If you
thousand
do-
nuclear weapons.
If you do, like, say, 500 missiles or in Moscow, so in return, would you see some nuclear? And
We're
then
not
the
going to
nuclear
do that.
war
We're-
broke.
We
We're
would,
just not going to do that.
Jack,
Yeah.
one thing you, the three of us can agree is we're not going to be attacking.
Of course
Russia.
not.
We're not going to be attacking.
Of course
Russia.
not.
Because
There are
we
limits.
know there are certain things that we just don't
You just
do.
can't do.
We
You
just
just
don't do.
can't. It's
No,
got to
no,
be
no,
off
no,
the
no,
table.
no.
Yeah. But your point is, and I think
My
it's well
point is
said,
that-
is if we know, if you're suspecting that Russia did it, why are you attacking Syria? Go attack Russia.
Of course.
That was your point, and
Of
it's
course.
a valid point. So
right.
now what we have to do is, in fact, like Ken said, they're studying it. Let's find out who really did this. But to me, I go back, the question is not really about who did or who did not. The question is, why are we, as Americans, involved in the Middle East in a way that is fostering the suffering of that whole region? We should be involved in business transactions to promote businesses. We should be promoting tourism. We should be promoting business expansion and cooperation among nations. We should not be doing what we are doing today. And that is, all we do now is sell weapons. We used to manufacture cars and sell them
Well, that's-
overseas. We don't do that anymore. Technology we were way ahead. And what happens now? All we do is sell weapons, we sell weapons, we sell weapons, and nothing else. And on top of that, we build military bases around the world. And then we keep saying, it's the other guy that's the imperialist. No, my friends, look in the mirror and see how many bases the United States, we have around the world, and then answer the question yourself.
So you're
over 1,000.
Are you declaring in your vision America to be an imperialistic country?
What I'm saying is we have to face realities the way they are. And the way they are is we're not focusing on America. We're focusing somewhere else. And my view
Another
is
word,
those
it's
military
America
people
first
should be
right
here.
now,
Same question
It
we
is
can
America
ask.
first. That's why America
same
first
question
is
we can
America, but we're
ask
not in
different
America.
ways.
We're in somewhere else.
Okay,
We're
why
the
the
only
three?
stabilizing country in the world that
Because
can
we're
have an
destabilizing so many others.
We're not destabilizing so
Yes.
many others.
So-
No. So we disagree. That's good.
No, we disagree. Of course, the biggest disagreement is that why are we, the three of us, sitting here debating
Because we love America. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
over something over there?
And that's something
Because
that,
we hate to get ourselves involved wrongly, unnecessarily.
We were too late
Am I
in
right?
World War II, and we were letting Jews die by the 20,000 an hour before we finally got in. And I know we begged Japan to probably attack us
Then
or
we,
something.
You
then
know,
we decided
uh,
this time we'll get it early.
and no, the thing is, we selectively decided that we wanted to, and actually we've been doing it in a subvert fashion for a long time. Rwanda, when the genocide in Rwanda happened, we knew about it, but we didn't do anything about it. Why? Because we don't really care. What did Africa have?
We
They don't
do
have any
care.
mineral resources. Well, we
do care.
We may care, and I want to
We
correct
do
that.
care.
Thank you, Ken, for correcting me. We as Americans care, but our politicians don't give a damn, and that's why they didn't do anything about it. That's why it's time to get rid of these politicians that always put us in war and don't take the humanitarian approach to problem solving. When Rwanda happened, we didn't do anything.
Speaking of that,
Big
I
question
have
here,
one
same
sentence,
thing.
one statement to make. It sounds to me that we sell weapons to the area, go buy weapon area, and then
Nothing
next
else.
thing we do,
Well,
we want to cease fire in that area. That's all we do.
I have a question, though, Joe. This
Yeah,
is very
sure.
important. I'm 100% in favor of term limits in Congress and the Senate. No one should be there 30 years. Everyone's corrupt.
One
The
congressman was
Republicans
there
are never-
53 years.
They shouldn't
Bingo.
be. They-
And then he finally was disgraced. To me, that is
Right.
out. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so-
It should be
and
out.
I'd say
It should not be.
Maybe two terms for a Senate and maybe 3 for Congress.
I would say,
and then
I would
roll
say
them out.
total term in
all
either
get
house 12
corrupted.
years. Two
Okay,
terms
anyway.
for the Senate.
All right.
Because remember, the House
right,
is
all
at
right.
2.
Yeah,
So
right, I
total
know.
12 years, and after that, you're out.
Yeah.
We do
It
not
should
even have
be.
time when I
It should be
enough
public
time.
service.
We do
It's
not even
a
have enough
career.
time to
It's
talk about
self-service.
Syria.
It's self-service.
Let the term limit wait another day. All right.
Yeah.
We're over time, my dear friends. Lovely audience. Today we're very happy, and I thought, this whole debate goes on much better than I thought. Right. Thanks
should
to
do this again.
Yeah. Thanks to my
I'm
dear
up to it.
friend
I am too.
Commander Shamas,
I'm a happy
and
boy.
also
Thank you.
thanks
Thank
to
you.
my dear friend Ken Hemming. My audience, thank you for watching. And like they say, it is not the only time we will plan on doing more, because maybe next to 48 or 72 hours, something
will
new,
come up.
but the opposite direction
Yeah,
will go.
it will.
Will
Yeah.
be pushed. All right, my dear audiences, thank you very much.